This is my 1987 BMW K75. It's the base model, the unfed model. Today I'm going to change the clutch release boot, the one that's hidden behind the back wheel, because mine's split and spilled its guts all over the floor.
Well, that's not looking good, is it?
Normally they perish and you get a tiny little drip. This one's actually done a massive split, and that could have been really dangerous if that had happened while I was riding. There's the replacement boot, and you can see it's got a seal in it. It's actually quite thick, maybe thicker than the one that was on the bike. And I've also got a replacement spring because they're only £3. That was about £18. So the boot is here under the back, and it is just there, and this is split all the way across the top. I don't really know why it's done that. It's only been on there about 4 years. You can get at it without taking the wheel off, but it's so much easier if you just pop the wheel off, so I'm going to do that first. So with the back wheel off, you can see the clutch arm, the adjuster. Mine's got this little rubber cap that keeps it from being corroded, and then the boot itself. So obviously this has got to be made to fall away so that we can take the whole thing off. You need to disconnect the clutch cable, so if you pull the clutch in, the arm will actuate, and then what I do is I just put a piece of wood underneath it and you can take that out. So the cable's now out, and that means that this is loose. So if I take my piece of wood out, you can see that it's sprung, but it can drop down, and I can now undo this. So when you wind the adjuster out, you see it's got a very long thread. So it is this point you realise that you have to take the exhaust can off, which is not too difficult because it's only got a hanger there and a clamp bolt just in there. So that's the exhaust can off, and because I use fire paste, that's going to be easy to put back on. Now we can see in the back of this is now free to fall down. You can also see that massive split. That is not what it's supposed to be like. It looks to me like that just prizes off like that. I can drop that further down, and then this comes out. That spring obviously needs to go back in when you put it back together. Whee! This is the clip that I've just taken off the bike, and this is a new one that I had from a long time ago. But look at the difference between the lengths of the screws. I found it absolutely impossible to fit this with this screw on, so I had to put on my own screw, and that screw is a pickup screw from a guitar. Once you get it that long, it's quite easy to put it back together and tie it up. When it's as short as that, I just could not make it connect, and it drove me bloody mad. So this should just now pop off. You can see it's actually torn itself in half. God knows how that's done that. Right, that just pulls off. Now the interesting thing is that boot is also the outer seal. It's a really bad design. Why didn't they have an inner seal in there to stop the oil pouring out? That's the clutch push rod bearing. If that goes, it makes a horrible banging sound. So you know that that's gone. So that's easy to replace. And that bit in the middle there, that is actually the push rod. I think this part comes out. This is like a carrier, and the spring sits in here, so that can all go back together. The spring will just hang in the carrier like that. Then you've got to put the sleeve over it, and then you've got to work out a way of compressing that so it doesn't tear the sleeve, presumably using this as a lever. So make sure you got that the right way up, because it's got to be that way up. That's going to go over there, and then you've got to push that in. This is a bit of a three-handed job, this, isn't it? So you've got to push that in, and then get that in the middle of the spring without damaging any of it. So that goes like that. It goes like that. It goes like that. Alright, that looks like it's not going where you want it to go. Push that in. Right, get it squared up and push that in there. I've then put the cable back in, so this holds this all in place. And then we go back to this. If we then adjust this up so it's all sitting in the correct place, we should be able to then do it up. Well, that was a bit of a faff. I've pulled the clutch in and fixed it with a cable tie, and I've now seated this on the back there, which means I can now put the clip on. So I've now got the clip in the right place, and I can do it up so it's nice and biting. This is where my extra long screw comes in handy, because it's so much easier. To get the correct adjustment at the levers, it needs to be 75mm between that point there and the brake nipple. Now I'm only about 3mm out, so that's actually really quite good. But I'm actually near the end of the adjustment of this cable. This is quite a long way out, and I think maybe I'm going to have to invest in a new clutch cable soon, because that's obviously stretched. I was trying to remember when I last did this, and I think it's over 15 years ago. That is pretty much perfect now, so the distance from there to there is exactly 75mm. Now all you need to do is wind in the adjuster till it just bites, then half a turn, and then do up the lock nut. You need a 13 and a 10mm spanner for that. It's beginning to bite just there, and I can tighten that up. Get a 10mm spanner and just do it up, maybe a half turn. You come back to the handlebar and you need to get about 5mm of free play just there. So you can now loosen this back off. That's about it. And it feels like that's doing the job now. Just check the side stand still works. All good. So I've done this job using the tools off the bike. Now I'm going to run it up and let the firepost set again, and hopefully we won't be having a leaking clutch. You can test the clutch biting point by running the bike up on the main stand, putting it into first gear, and then just slowly letting the clutch out and seeing where it bites and where it releases. Remember with K-bikes though, that the back wheel will be continually going round whether it's in gear or not. So click it into first gear, the back wheel will stop, let the clutch out, there we go, and that's just about exactly the right biting point. Let it right out and the bike will just run. That's all good. Still got that bit of play in the release. Pull the clutch in and stop. Let it out.